Not this game.
I'm still basking in the joy of college football Saturday because my Howard Bison won the MEAC championship, and they're going to the
Congratulations.
It's been a minute. So
my Syracuse Orange lost at Georgia Tech and fired Dino Babers this morning. Other than that, everything is just fine. Just fine. Offstage, Marcus Grant and Leslie Frazier join us shortly. Let's go through, however, the actives and inactives with 8 games about to kick off. Notable here at the skill positions, Deontay Foreman is up for the Bears, but Khalil Herbert is back as well. Devon Achane is back, the rookie sensation for the Miami Dolphins, and Keenan Allen is up at active for the Chargers as they get set to face a Packers team that does not have Jair Alexander, but we do have, hello, happy game day, to our insider, Mike Garafolo, with Justin Fields. Mike, and you guys were talking about this morning on game day morning, getting, in essence here, a 7-game tryout again, if you will, with the Bears currently holding the #1 overall pick, which is Carolina's.
There's no doubt about that, Andrew, and the Bears would love to use both of their top picks, having acquired one from Carolina and having their own as well, to build around Justin Fields if at all possible. So Fields back in the lineup today, will play against the Lions. That thumb feeling much better than it did previously. He had sort of a shot in that Thursday game, just couldn't quite get there. Still some pain and weakness. Now feels like he's all the way back and his arm is fresh as well. So the expectation for him, at least, is that he's going to come out firing and breathe some life back into this offense. And yeah, definitely start his audition down the stretch because it is honestly up in the air right now. I mean, you've got Caleb Williams starting to show some warts down the stretch for USC. Suddenly he's not the consensus #1 overall pick anymore. And Justin Fields potentially could change the minds of the Bears front office if they're leaning toward drafting a quarterback. Yeah, it's wide open. Fields can play himself into keeping his job and perhaps a lucrative contract extension down the stretch.
May has entered the conversation. How about Daniels last night for LSU with 6 total touchdowns there as well? How about Matthew Stafford, Garafolo, for the Rams, who after the Brett Rippon experiment a couple of weeks ago and then the bye week is back today. And from everything Sean McVay said on the podium, it seems no limitations as they face the Seahawks in one of the late games.
On the podium, and I texted him again this morning, just doubling back. He said Matthew's good to go. Didn't notice any difference between him in practice this week and how he usually is in practice. He said it's just not only that you get the quarterback back at that position, it kind of lifts everybody else up as well. That's the presence that Stafford has. So Sean McVay and the Rams feeling good about having Matthew Stafford back in the fold. I'll also say this. Apparently Carson Wentz has really impressed so far with his athleticism and what he's been able to do upstairs mentally as well. They are pleased with him, but the only way we're going to see him is if Stafford suffers some kind of injury or re-injury. The expectation is Matthew Stafford will be from start to finish in this game, and they hope the rest of the season as well.
If you want to flash back to 2017, we heard something from Sean McVay Friday that we would have never, ever been able to wrap our heads around, and that is Carson Wentz was a really good practice squad, or rather a scout team, Geno Smith this week, getting the Rams ready for the Seahawks, trying to sweep them. They won up there week #1. Thank you, Mike Garafolo. The Steelers trying to sweep the Browns in week 2. It was Deshaun Watson on Monday Night Football. In week 11, it is Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the 5th-round rookie from UCLA, who was thrown into an uncomfortable position week 4 when Watson showed up at the stadium, Tom Pelissero, and couldn't go. We know by now what happened. DTR started well, it went off the rails, threw 3 picks, and the Browns lost to the Ravens. Why do the Browns think that this time it's going to be different?
Well, Andrew, let's start with the fact that DTR and everybody else involved with the Browns didn't know until about 3 hours before kickoff that he was going to be starting that game back in week 4 against the Ravens. This week, he got the entire week to prepare. They could build the game plan specifically around him. And I've talked to a handful of Browns people here pregame. Everybody says the same thing. In practice this week, he looked pretty good. There are reasons that they drafted him out of UCLA. He obviously brings a lot to the table in terms of his athletic skill set. Wide receiver Amari Cooper told me, we know he can run, we know he can sling it, but like every other rookie, he's got to go out there and prove it. I saw DTR come on the field an hour or so ago. He made a lap, then went out there for the pregame warm-up with a big smile on his face. A huge opportunity today in a game with all kinds of playoff implications here in Cleveland between the Browns and the Steelers, who are both fighting for an AFC playoff spot.
A couple of 6-3 teams, a couple of teams with very, very, very good defenses here. A Steelers defense that, Steve, when last these two teams met week 2, scored 2 touchdowns.
Yep. Yeah, but that was their season high in points, 2 with 26. They can't score. And that's my big question coming in today is, can Pittsburgh put enough points on the board against this defense? They're averaging just more than 17 points per game. They're terrible in the red zone. Yeah, they've run the ball a little bit better, but 8 offensive touchdowns against this defense. They better hope their defense rattles DTR to score, because, if you're trying to get your offense better, get it rectified, Cynthia, going up against this Browns defense is not really the unit, and I think those struggles are going to continue offensively for Pittsburgh.
Well, you talk about all of these games and the AFC North in general, obviously losing 2 quarterbacks. Let's look at the playoff picture, because this was kind of fascinating what happened this week. So if you're just looking right now, please note 2 teams that are missing, both the Bills and the Bengals. But good things for both the Steelers, who actually have slightly better odds of making it to the playoffs than the Browns as of right now. The Bills do have a window to get in, as do the Colts, I guess, sort of. But really, the Texans have impressed. And looking at this game, playoff implications here for sure.
Steelers offense, too, a couple of notes on them. They've run the football better over the last couple of weeks. Najee Harris still the starter for this team, but obviously Jaylen Warren playing a ton, at over 100 yards last week. I talked to Deontay Johnson, who couldn't say enough high praise about what Jaylen Warren has brought to this team. And in the passing game, no, they haven't been highly productive. Kenny Pickett's been up and down, only 6 touchdown passes this season. But Johnson said one of Mike Tomlin's messages this week was attacking on the perimeter. They're going to get a lot of one-on-ones. That's how the Browns play defense. They think they're going to have some opportunities to take shots downfield, yes.
Browns play a lot of man. Certainly here, the Steelers offense has not put together a 400-yard day in 57 games. Ben Roethlisberger was quarterback, and it wasn't his last year as quarterback. That is how long it has been. Tom Pelissero, thank you. Cleveland Browns Stadium, wearing the gloves at the top coat. It is officially that time of the year. A little bit warmer, however, in Carolina, where Dak Prescott and the Cowboys are getting ready for that rare 1 p.m. Eastern time start. They had one a couple of weeks ago at home against the Rams. That game was over in 10 minutes. Some think this game could be over in 9 minutes, because Dak has 3 consecutive games. Hi there, James Palmer, with 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. He and CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks and everyone else there have been on a roll.
They really have, and I'll say this. If they continue to play that well offensively, the vast majority of this stadium is going to be very pleased with the Cowboys' performance, if you catch my drift. That's why Bryce Young has been working on a silent count. There are just an unbelievable amount of Cowboys fans here to watch those 2 guys you mentioned, Andrew. And with both of them and all the success they've had of late, I want to tell you guys a couple of other things that I've been told about why they both have been so successful. One, the offensive line has gotten through these injuries and is now back intact. Obviously, that helps Dak Prescott tremendously, but also the trust that I'm told Dak Prescott has in his legs has changed everything in this offense. Remember the injury a few years back? When I speak to people in the building, they believe that he now has that trust to play outside the pocket, extend plays, and that's where this offense has taken another step, as well as Jake Ferguson at the tight end spot. That's a trust factor, as we mentioned that word, that Dak Prescott has gained opposite of CeeDee Lamb. So that has helped this offense move as well. What we want to see is if they're going to be balanced, Andrew, and run the football consistently like they did last week. They want to be balanced as an offense. We know Dak and CeeDee have been great. Let's see how they run the ball, and let's see how the other options play alongside those 2.
Cowboys have beaten up bad teams. I mean, there's no really other way to say it. Not only offensively, Steve, but defensively. Their numbers are just so much different. They're 6-1 against teams with losing records.
Yeah, I mean, look, defensively is where the Cowboys' bread is buttered. I mean, we know Dan Quinn has done a fantastic job, but a player I'm looking for in this game is their weak side linebacker, Marquise Bell. He moved from safety into that spot after Leighton Vander Esch went down. Again, a converted safety like Dan Quinn did with Keanu Neal a couple of years ago, but Carolina's passing game, which isn't very good, it's an intermediate type of passing game. Here you're seeing Bell also in the running game, a very physical player, a lot of range, someone who should step up against an offense that could once again be in flux. And to that point, as we know, head coach Frank Reich took back play calling duties from offensive coordinator Thomas Brown this week after 3 games. And look, people I've heard from this week, one said that was just a brutal thing for Thomas Brown, for his career moving forward, things like that. It was really not a great thing for Frank Reich to do. But okay, Frank, he's taken things back on himself. So now all cameras are on him, so to speak. You're calling the plays now. Your offense isn't very good. It's personnel and your scheme. You know, you fired Marcus Brady last year in Indianapolis as well, running your offense, which wasn't working very well. So let's see if this is a Frank Reich issue or if this is an offensive issue, because clearly his job, from all indications, is now a little bit in jeopardy.
You would think.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's tough to go against this Cowboys defense, even if your job isn't in jeopardy.
Right.
But one thing I'm looking for is to complement that great Cowboys defensive front and some changes there in the back end due to injuries. I want to see if they can get Tony Pollard really going.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a formula for deep playoff success, a really smart thing to have is a great pass rush and a really strong run game. It allows you to control the clock, and it allows you to stop opposing passers. That's the one area of this offense that I think that the Cowboys would, like you said, to be more balanced on, but also you would like to see like Tony Pollard getting kind of those big clips that we saw in seasons prior where we know he can run for more than 4 yards per carry. Those are the types of things, 10+ yard runs, a big deal. And by the way, I just pulled my personal MVP odds, and Dak is number 3 right now on my board,
He's surging.
in case anyone was wondering.
Well, I mean, the last 3 weeks, James
3.
alone, yeah, put him in that conversation, certainly.
Really, and Cynthia, real quick on that, they love that Rico Dowdle, what he did last week, yes, it was just one game, but if they can spell Tony Pollard, they believe, and talking to people on the sideline this morning, that he could be a more effective back if he gets a chance to get off the field just a little bit, to stay a little bit fresher. And then, Steve, back to what you were saying about the Panthers and what's going on with the play calling and Frank Reich and going back to him. I can tell you, I have been told by multiple sources today that it was an extremely awkward week. It was awkward for players, it was awkward for coaches, and you have to go all the way back to OTAs with all of this that has surrounded Bryce Young in his first year in the NFL. They essentially changed the offense, I'm told, roughly 4 times during the offseason. And then throughout this first portion, obviously they go to Thomas Brown for 3 weeks in the middle of having Frank Reich call plays, and they have changed the offense multiple times, just tweaks, but still some changes throughout the first portion of this. I'm told Bryce Young has handled it very well, better than actually they've expected. But we heard Pep Hamilton say on our show, the NFL Report, shameless plug, Steve.
Shameless.
The plan
Well done.
you have for your quarterback is equally important as the skill set of your quarterback, and the plan for Bryce Young is the one that's in question right now.
A lot of cooks in the kitchen there, certainly, on that staff. Wonder who is making the decisions. Our old friend Brian Billick once told us, slippery slope as a head coach. Once you give up play calling, you can't take it back. Well, here I guess you can.
No takebacks.
And Frank Reich is taking it back today as they face the Dallas Cowboys. Thank you, James Palmer, live there in what might feel like a Cowboys home game in Carolina. Look who's in the building at Ford Field, the Commissioner Roger Goodell. Set to see the Lions and the Bears. Cynthia Freeland, thank you. Go root for the Lions. Cynthia, back to game day morning. We're live in Detroit next. You're watching NFL Game Day preview. Jared Goff and the Lions swept the Bears last season. The Lions are trying to go to 8-2 through 10 games for the first time since anybody? Poll the audience. Weich, coach. Last time they were 8-2.
Since Lombardi?
Games. Yeah, kind of sort of. 1962.
Wait.
Yeah. That's Jack Fox. What is this, like medieval times? Like, is there a show? What's he doing? That's the Lions punter. He's suited up and armored up.
Yeah, you know.
I don't know how to transition.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's a...
So we're going to go to Ford Field and welcome in Bridget Condon here on the NFL channel and say, Bridget, it's a Jared Goff tee up. The Lions are good and their punter is dressed like a knight.
Andrew, you forgot my fun facts from this morning on game day morning. 1962, also who was president? Anyone? It was JFK. I'll spare you for your U.S. history. A long time ago. But good news for the Bears is Justin Fields is back. He's warming up just off camera. He does have tape on that injured thumb. Of course, he missed those 4 games with that injury. So what does a healthy Justin Fields mean for this Bears team? Cornerback Tyreek Stevenson told me he noticed more downfield passes this week at practice. He also says this offense can get a lot crazier with Fields back because of his mobility. And in those 3 games before the injury, Fields led the league in passer rating. So keep an eye on that connection with DJ Moore, who did not have a single touchdown from Tyson Bagent. He does lead this Bears team with 5 touchdowns, but they've all come from Fields. This team is hoping to capitalize against a Detroit defense that struggled as of late. They've averaged 30 points of what they're giving up since week 7, which Andrew and Steve and Leslie, that's the most in the NFL in that span.
All right, so, I mean, it's a different game, certainly with Fields here on the field, Coach. It's a different game the last couple of weeks as well with that Lions ground game.
The Lions have really found something with their 2 running backs. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are outstanding. Last week, to rush for over 200 yards, 31 attempts, and then with David Montgomery, former Bear, ended up rushing, 10-yard average? So for the Bears, their defense, that's their strength, being able to stop the run, averaging like 3.1 per carry. That's going to be a big deal, how well they can do versus this 2-headed monster that the Detroit Lions have in the backfield. The other part of it is Jahmyr Gibbs also catches the ball out of the backfield. 31 catches right now, over 200 yards. So that's another part of their weaponry that allows their quarterback, Jared Goff, to really have the kind of days that he had last week against the Chargers.
Yeah, a lot of toys on display here at SoFi last week.
Yeah, and they're going to go with a hot hand. But you know who else dresses up like knights, like it's medieval?
Who's that?
Look, that's their offensive line. Okay, the Lions' offensive line, we talk about Ben Johnson. Everyone knows the Lions' offensive coordinator is arguably one of the most creative in the NFL. But that's because he has an offensive line across the board, tackle to tackle, that can run the ball, run block, like Leslie said, pass pro. Here, Jared Goff last week against the Chargers didn't get touched. They rush for 200 yards. They can do everything. And Bridget, I want to bring you back into this because you were at that game with me, and it was a virtuoso. Again, with this offensive line, look at that run action because they sold it. And one thing they did in that game, and what Ben Johnson did because of the offensive line play, they showed personnel that they run play action pass off of to get the defensive personnel groupings, and then they ran it down their throat. So Bridget, and looking at this Lions offensive line against a pretty good run defense by Chicago, what is kind of the conversation or feel there how they could show up today?
Steve, real quick, that game you just mentioned that we both were at, remember that 75-yard touchdown run from David Montgomery? They had the wrong personnel out there for that play, and they still capitalized. That's the biggest difference that we've seen from this Lions team this season, is when things don't go wrong or as planned, they're still finding ways to get it done. And David Montgomery was out here, one of the first players early, I'm talking early on the field, before even the punters were out here, and I stopped him, introduced myself, and talked to him, and he said he's excited, just hoping for a good game against his former team. It's kind of funny, he was talking earlier this week that when he used to play the Lions as a Bear, he would circle the calendar for those games, knowing he would have stat games against them. Then last year when he played them, they lost the first game. He thought maybe it was a fluke. That second loss, he thought, all right, maybe they're the real deal. Then he came here, and he knew they were the real deal, and he's been in seamlessly leading this team with just over 500 rushing yards.
Against a Bears run defense that, as we all pointed out, is a lot better. it's actually on pace to be their best run defense in 50-some years.
Oh, we're going to
Have
the
their
history
hands
books today.
full today.
I like this.
History, more Lions history Thursday, Thanksgiving game coming up. Thank you, Bridget. They're live in Detroit. 2 games in 5 days for the Lions. We haven't seen this guy in over 5 weeks. That is Devon Achane, the sensational, the electric, the must-see TV rookie as part of that Dolphins 4x100 team. That's what Antonio Pierce, the Raiders head coach, used to describe that Dolphins offense. To this man, Cam Wolf, live with us from Miami with a Dolphins team with Achane there now back. Cam, that's only averaging 43.5 points a game at home.
Andrew, I'm told Dolphins rookie running back Devon Achane will be a full go today. And you mentioned how explosive this offense has been at home. They've been explosive with Achane running the football. He leads the NFL in rushing yards per game and rushing yards per carry. And I watched him in warm-ups. He looked just as fluid as he did all week in practice, ready to bring that speed against the Raiders defense. And one example for fantasy football fans who are wondering how much he's going to be used today, Jeff Wilson, their veteran running back, is a healthy scratch. The Dolphins feel like he is ready to go and ready to take that backfield on Raheem Mostert. As far as the Raiders, they've got a huge boost from Coach Antonio Pierce. Linebacker Devon Diablo told me, we played dead before he took over. Now we are alive. We play like dogs with a different energy. As far as the Dolphins' speed, he said we are not going to chase their motion today. We're going to play our sides. We know it's dangerous, but we believe in our guys. It's going to be a fun matchup, but the Dolphins have been excellent here in Miami.
And not going to chase their motion. It isn't only Achane, it's Raheem Mostert as well. It's Waddle, it's Tyreek Hill. Mostert, we forget because they were off a bye, has 13 touchdowns, most in the NFL.
Yeah, look, and if they're going to play like dogs on defense, they better play a get out of my yard, beware of dog thing, because the run defense for the Raiders is not good. I mean, they're one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. They've got 39 missed tackles against the run. That doesn't work well against a team like the Miami Dolphins, which are great in the open field. So, Coach, I want to use kind of your expertise on something like this. When you've got a poor run defense, is it fits? Is it poor tackling, just technique? Because you cannot afford this against a team like the Dolphins.
It's probably a combination of the two, for sure, Steve. You're usually missing tackles. You're usually not gap sound. You're usually not getting everybody to the football, population to the football. That's probably part of the problem. But I want to transition to the Miami Dolphins defense. I want to take you, Andrew, into those meetings this past week with Vic Fangio. He's saying to this offense, to their defense, about their offense, we're not going to let Aiden O'Connell and this Raiders offense have any daylight. We're healthy now. We've got our best cornerback in Jalen Ramsey. We've got Xavier Howard back. We've got one of the top pass rushers in the league and Bradley Chubb and Christian Wilkins inside. We should go out and dominate this offense. That's the mindset the Miami Dolphins want to have on defense today against this Raiders offense.
Cam?
And one thing I just want to piggyback off there, Coach Frazier, is just this Dolphins defense is finally getting healthy. You mentioned Jalen Ramsey back. They also have Javon Holland. This is only the second game they've had their complete secondary together. And I talked to Xavier Howard this week about Devontae Adams. He said he's the #2 wide receiver in football, only behind Tyreek Hill. But we think we can bait Aiden O'Connell, that rookie quarterback, into throwing us some interceptions. Jalen Ramsey, who you just mentioned, also said that I'm still in training camp mode. I still feel rusty. He's playing really good so far, but a scary moment for offenses that have to play him in the future is that they're just heating up.
And a big step up in weight class here for the Raiders with Antonio Pierce, who won those 2 games against the 2 New York teams at home. Today it's Miami, then Kansas City, Minnesota, the Chargers, and then Kansas City again. It's about to get real for the 5-5 Raiders, who are now back in to the conversation. Thank you, Cam Wolf. The conversation there in Miami. Back to Detroit coming up shortly. Amon-Ra St. Brown is in your fantasy lineup, I'd assume today, right? Yeah, he should be. Who should you keep out of your lineup, however? Marcus Grant is here with that. I don't know if we can top Jack Fox showing up dressed as a knight, but here's some other pictures from Team Social. Guys on the field like Pat Freiermuth back and activated off injured reserve today. He is in the lineup for the Steelers. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to start at quarterback for the Browns today. I don't know if he's going to be in your lineup against that defense. You know, do as you please, but Marcus Grant is here to tell you who you should start. Marcus, great to see you.
Good to see you.
Your must-start quarterback today is?
Brock Purdy.
Okay.
The Brock Lobster is back. I mean, last week he came back off the bye. He looks healthy. Weird thing, Andrew, how much better you can be when you have Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams back in the lineup,
works.
right?
Yes.
Kind of weird how that works. But he looks very, very good. He's not a volume shooter. He's more of an efficiency guy. And going against a Buccaneers secondary has been pretty soft on quarterback so far this year. I think Brock Purdy, that Niner offense, keeps it going from last night.
The second straight year, the Buccaneers play at San Francisco, which is a bit of an oddity. Brock Purdy and Baker Mayfield in that quarterback matchup. Your must-start running back is Aaron Jones. I ruined the surprise for him, but let me ask you this. Do you start every running back against the Chargers?
Right now you do.
Okay.
Until they figure something out, you absolutely do. I mean, you can run the ball effectively against them. Also, Aaron Jones is the guy who's getting a lot of targets in that offense, too. And one of the things we know about fantasy is a target is worth a little bit more than a carry because we live in a PPR world, so just catching the football is a bonus. So I think even if he doesn't get it done on the ground, I think he catches a few passes. It has what's a good day for him. It's been a frustrating year for Aaron Jones so far.
And that entire Green Bay offense, actually. And somewhat frustrating as well for the Chiefs, which is why I'm a little bit surprised by your must-start wide receiver today. I get the secondary that the Eagles bring into Kansas City, but Rashee Rice
has become the #1 wide receiver on that team. Not the #1 pass catcher. That's still going to be Travis Kelce. But he's the guy that's getting the most snaps. He's getting more looks from Patrick Mahomes. And as you mentioned, that Eagles secondary has been a problem this year. And in a game that could end up being high scoring. Plus, look, they're coming out of the bye. Andy Reid probably has something up his sleeve to maybe kickstart this offense.
All right, Rashee Rice is in your lineup, but the big name player to avoid today, we do this every week, one big name that's generally in your lineup that Marcus says should not be there today is also a wide receiver.
It is. It's Adam Thielen. And this is not about Thielen per se, because he's actually been maybe the most consistent thing in that Panthers offense.
The only target.
The problem is the offensive line is struggling. They got to deal with that Cowboys pass rush, and none of the other receivers can get open consistently. So if I'm Dallas, my whole goal is to take away Adam Thielen and see if Bryce Young can go somewhere else to beat me. That would make me very hesitant about starting Thielen.
Okay, Adam Thielen and the Panthers about to kick off with the Cowboys one at 8, 1 p.m. Eastern time kicks. You have 30 minutes to set your lineup. Go do it now. And if you need help during the week, Monday and Wednesday, Marcus right here on the NFL channel with the NFL Fantasy Football Show. Fantastic fest, by the way, Marcus, as we continue here on NFL Game Day Preview on the NFL channel. Coming up next, we mentioned Rashee Rice. He wasn't there last year for the Super Bowl. He will be there on Monday night for the Super Bowl rematch, which is in the spotlight. Coming up.
player, evaluating yourself, you're all about, did the Eagles win, did they not win? How did you get to that point?
By losing.
Super Bowl champs, baby, let's go!
Giddy up. Yeah.
Yep.
Sign me up for this one.
Oh,
It is a Super Bowl rematch, everybody. Week 11 on a Monday night. We're allowed to talk about the Monday night game here, even though it's Sunday. At Arrowhead, the Chiefs and the Eagles. Marcus Grant joins us at Leslie Frazier, Steve Weich. I'm Andrew Siciliano. Fascinating here that, Coach, they've had all season to get ready for it here. The Chiefs coming off a bye in Europe, coming back from Germany with a victory. How do you see this one?
Man, you know, this is an exciting game for sure. The Chiefs are much improved defense, Andrew, and that kind of tells me to lean towards the Chiefs. I think the offense is going to kind of cancel themselves out a little bit, but the way the Chiefs are playing on defense, I mean, they're second in the league in points allowed. They're doing a really good job on third down. Here are a few clips to talk a little bit about what are some of the things they've got to do to defend in this ball game. One of the things that the Eagles have begun to do is more RPOs as the season is gone. Dallas Goedert, he's out this ball game. Part of it is they haven't been able to run the ball as well as they have a year ago. Now, the big thing for the Chiefs defense, how good will Steve Spagnuolo's plan be to defend A.J. Brown, making a terrific catch here, but he's been doing this all season long. Now, this is probably the key area in the ball game from my standpoint, the takeaways. Trent McDuffie does a great job here coming in and taking the football away. Both teams have done a good job on defense for the most part throughout the season and taking it away, but this is going to be the difference in the game. Great tackle, good job of forming up, but you'll see on the end zone clip how he does a really good job of pulling the football out and then being able to score. The team that scores today on defense, that's the team that, in my mind, will win this ball game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look, and speaking of defenses, let's flip this over, okay? Because everyone's thinking, okay, the Kansas City Chiefs, their passing game, they might be able to take advantage of some issues with the Eagles secondary. Let's flash back to that Super Bowl, and how did Philadelphia win that ball game? In the second half, they ran the ball down the Eagles' throat, and the Eagles' defensive interior was better than personnel-wise and depth-wise. So this could be a game where the Kansas City Chiefs come out, they get Jet McKinnon a little bit more activated in the run game to go with Isaiah Pacheco and go more the interior run game in a game like this, because that is what could work if they want to prevent a shootout. And let's also forget, Patrick Mahomes can run the ball as well, too. That was another big factor and has been for the Chiefs offense this season.
I'll say in a moment of desperation, I had to add Jarek McKinnon to a fantasy lineup.
How about
so
that?
I hope that sort of works out. I hope that works out. But you know, as much as you're right, they did run the ball really effectively, they still have to throw the ball. And we know beyond Travis Kelce, we're sort of waiting for somebody to emerge. I know I had Rashee Rice as a guy that you should start in this game, but honestly, it has sort of been a team effort. It's been spread out. They've been looking for that guy to replace Tyreek Hill. I don't know that you ever can one-to-one, but there's been a little bit of Rashee Rice, a little bit of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You know, we're waiting to see if Sky Moore can step up, and that's going to be the question, is who beyond number 87 can make plays in that passing game for Kansas City.
Yeah, and when last we saw the Eagles secondary, let's not forget, there were some penalties on that final drive, but Dak was marching them down the field there to potentially win that game at the end before the Cowboys. Obviously, late game management has been an issue, if you haven't noticed of late, and years past as well, shot themselves in the foot. That Eagles secondary is banged up. That's why, obviously, you're playing Rashee Rice here, Kevin Byard. How does he help maybe erase or help erase Travis Kelce? This game is fascinating on so many levels, not just because the Philadelphia radio station is refusing to play Taylor Swift in advance of that game. Time now for Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Looking at a game in San Francisco with the Bucks coming to town. Christian McCaffrey, maybe the touchdown streak, gets going again this week. That coupled with his quarterback And the running back on the other side, Rachaad White, gives you a same-game parlay here for DraftKings. Speaking of this one, let's pick somebody who scores, Marcus, from your perspective in this one.
I'm going to go low-hanging fruit and say Christian McCaffrey.
That's a tough one.
I know, right? It's a tough call on that one. Look, he didn't score a touchdown last week, so obviously maybe it's in the realm of possibilities, despite Kyle Shanahan's best late-game efforts to get him in the end zone.
Which was a little much.
It was a little much, no doubt. But look, I mean, he is still the focal point of that offense. As they go, generally so goes the 49ers, so I think he gets in the end zone.
I love how McCaffrey looked at the camera on the podium after the game and said, I suck. Everybody scored but me. Who's going to score in Buffalo later today? The Jets and the Bills, coach. Who do you like scoring there?
I'm picking Breece Hall, and that's a little bit of a stretch when you consider the fact that the Jets have gone 31 possessions without
score
scoring.
The touchdown.
I mean, it's unbelievable. 11 quarters and you don't score, but I think today Breece finds a way to get in the end zone, and that'll bode well for the Jets offense.
I mean, they couldn't score against the Chargers. They couldn't score against the Raiders. And when they score, it's a one-play drive. It's like Breece Hall on a bolt of lightning. Not show me your lightning bolt. That would have been the Charger game 2 weeks ago. All right, White, over here. Rams, Seahawks. Who scores?
Puka Nacua is going to get in because Matthew Stafford's back. We know how he loves Cooper Kupp. So the Seahawks are going to give their attention to Cooper Kupp, even though Nacua murked the Seahawks for 10 catches early in the season. So they know who he is, but today's the day he gets into the end.
Okay, Puka Nacua with Matthew Stafford back and healthy. Rob Havenstein back and healthy at right tackle. And Sean McVay says this is as healthy as they have been, the Rams, since September. Kobe Durant's really the only notable name here on the injury list for L.A. All right, that's Who Scores, presented to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Don't forget DraftKings Sportsbook this season. New customers can bet $5 and pocket $150 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Download the app and use the promo code GAME when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. We are 20 minutes away from kickoff in 8 NFL stadiums, including Cleveland. Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith are rocking the old-school white face masks.
I love these.
Today, we're heading there.
What in the name of Brian
Coming
Sight?
up.
Brian Sight. Name that pass.
Houston Texans select C.J. Stroud.
Pure natural thrower.
They didn't have their quarterback of the future before this.
C.J. firing downfield to his right. Tag down to the house.
Wow.
C.J. Stroud with more magic to the end zone. C.J. looking, throwing to the end zone. Caught, touchdown. Houston takes the lead. Are you kidding?
Stroud, he's got 6. He's in for the touchdown. The Texans have won it.
I bring a leader. I bring me.
C.J. Stroud's really good. Have you figured that out yet? This is his old Buckeye teammate hugging it out with Paris Johnson, large man, playing O-line. Also a first-round pick.
And super athletic.
Arizona Cardinals. Yes, very, very good. Yeah, guys, this is my sneaky good game of the day.
Yeah.
It really is. The Cardinals and the Houston Texans. White, if you want another stat, you're giving me grief before about history. All right, so C.J. Stroud's averaging 292 yards a game passing, which is most in the NFL. No rookie has led the NFL in yards per game passing since Davey O'Brien in 39.
Wow.
There's the NFL research department.
And that's when they were throwing the ball like 4 times a game.
Yes.
Very good for Davey. Throwing yards, that many yards per game.
But CJ's been that good. Davey O'Brien good.
Davey O'Brien. Man, we have to make sure to hang on to that one. Well, look, C.J. Stroud, we have to keep watching him. And Leslie, this is where I want to bring him because we see all the yards. We see the composure, especially late in games. I mean, as OC Bobby Slowick said, that's the one trait that you're seeing over and over, which makes him look like a veteran. But to me, 15 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions, plus he's taking fewer and fewer sacks. That happens with Laramie Tunsil, of course, left tackle getting back in the lineup. But when you see any quarterback, regardless of age, 15 touchdowns to just 2 giveaways, as a former defensive coordinator going into playing against a guy like that, how do you rank him? How do you say, okay, we know he's not going to give it up, or let's try to force him to give it up?
Yeah, I mean, that's really impressive what he's done as far as the touchdown to interception ratio. You don't expect that out of a rookie. I know a lot of times when we'd be game playing rookie quarterbacks, I'd be talking to our defense about, hey, he's going to give us opportunities to get 2 or 3.
Right.
Well, I don't know if you can say that about C.J. Stroud, the way he's producing. And then the fact, one of the ways we would judge quarterbacks was how well they did on third down, how well were they in 2-minute situations, and obviously the turnover differential. He's shown that he's really good in all of those. Third down, 2-minute, not giving the football away. So just impressive all the way around. Really impressive.
Yeah, I'll say one of the things, too, that people keep making the comparison between Stroud and Bryce Young. There are some differences there in that, one, the protection has been a lot better for C.J. Stroud. But he also has wide receivers who are making plays and getting open. I mean, Nico Collins was a guy that people thought could be a nice player but has had a great season. Tank Dell has showed up as a rookie and been amazing for this Texans team right now. So C.J. Stroud has been great. He also has, I think, some advantages in the support system that Bryce Young probably hasn't had the first 11 weeks of his career.
And C.J. Stroud is making people pay week in, week out. I think a lot of us said last week, well, man, if they can go into Cincinnati and beat a Bengals team that then had Joe Burrow with all the Texans' injuries they had last week, all right, we believe. They did. He turned the ball over late, but then they got it back, and he marched him down the field, and they won the game. They're legit. I mean, they're in the conversation, actually, not only to get in, but to win the AFC South. Winning the AFC East right now, the Miami Dolphins, Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb, a defense that faces another rookie quarterback today, Steve Wyche and Aiden O'Connell, a defense that at least in the second half, they didn't win, but in the second half in Germany, we saw some signs that they're getting it together here with Vic Fangio.
Look, and that's going to take some time. And then Jalen Ramsey, that was his debut over in Germany. So they're getting some of their pieces together. We heard Cam Wolf earlier talk about how the secondary only the second time, or the first time, really, they've been at full strength all season. But Bradley Chubb up front, he is quietly having a fantastic year. He's always been stout against the run, which would be huge today, but getting after the quarterback as well.
And Miami faces another team at home, 5-5. Bears are 3-7. And coach, they get Justin Fields back today for the first time in 6 weeks. It's a different offense when he's there.
No doubt about it. When you take a look at what happened prior to his injury against the Broncos, where he really played well, and then the Commanders in that Thursday night game where he had a big game, and then he has the injury against Minnesota. So that Justin that we saw during that 3-week span as the Justin that the Bears are hoping they get a chance to see today. He's more than capable.
7 weeks to go here for Justin Fields before the Bears potentially have the #1 overall pick, which right now belongs to Carolina, which right now would have to ship that pick to Chicago. And right now today, Marcus, are going to have their hands full today with that guy, Dak Prescott.
Absolutely. I mean, Dak has been on fire over the last month. You can even go back to that game right before the bye when they played the Chargers. He had a really nice game here at SoFi Stadium. But pretty much since that really awful day they had against the 49ers, this passing game has turned itself around. So we'll see what happens. The Panthers' passing defense has been actually pretty good this season. We'll see if they can slow down Dak a little bit, but it's been amazing watching him really catch fire over the last few weeks.
James Palmer in the stands or on the field saying the stands are filled with Cowboy fans. Notice that walking around Charlotte this morning getting some coffee. Let's make some quick picks. A lot of Packer fans undoubtedly at Lambeau.
Yeah.
With the Chargers coming to town. White, everybody is taking the Chargers here.
Yeah, I mean, and this is because the Chargers can score. Their defense has been their issue. We know that they can't stop the run. They showed that last week against Detroit. And then against the pass, they're just terrible with the explosive plays. So maybe we see Jordan Love put up some fantasy numbers for Marcus. Hopefully you're not playing against him. But again, this defense is going to be an issue. Could be a high-flying game, but the Chargers' ability to light it up is going to be the difference.
Okay, so we are all taking the Chargers in this one. And also, Coach, we are all taking the Commanders as they are about to kick against Tommy DeVito and the Giants.
Yeah, we're counting on the Commanders' defense being able to dominate this offense that has really been inept at times. And now that Tommy DeVito is the quarterback, they're going to struggle unless Saquon Barkley can have a huge day, both running the football and catching the ball. But the Commanders, I know they're missing some pieces, but this should be their day to really come around and show that, hey, we are a good defense. So we'll see how it plays out.
Have not had a lot of push up front, not gotten a lot of pressure since they traded Montez Sweat and Chase Young. But then again, look at how many times Giants quarterbacks have been sacked collectively. All of the quarterbacks, more sacks than anyone, even more than Sam Howell. Marcus, in the Titans-Jags game, you're the only one taking the Titans.
Yeah, this is a little bit of no stats, just vibes. It feels a little bit like one of those games that the Titans somehow rally and find a way to win. It's going to be imperative, though, for Will Levis to be a little bit more protective of the football. He came out, had that first really big game going against DeAndre Hopkins. Since then, it's been a little bit of a different story. But if they can get him to be, good with the football, get the ball out to his playmakers, maybe get a little bit of Derrick Henry going, I think they can actually win this game.
All right, that's one of 11 games on the schedule this afternoon. I like it as well. The night game honestly looks a heck of a lot better now than it did, say, 2 weeks ago when some people thought the Vikings and the Broncos in Denver were going to get flexed out. No, don't look now. They've combined for 8 consecutive wins. 5 straight for the Broncos, 5 straight for the Vikings, 3 straight for the Broncos. And we are all taking the Broncos here today because that Denver defense the last 2 weeks has forced, sorry, Coach, for the Bills tape here, 8 turnovers. 8 the last 2 weeks, including 4 from Josh Allen and this Bills offense on Monday night. Not all of it was Josh Allen's fault. That ball hit Gabe Davis in the hands right there. Obviously, they had the botched exchange. This one, a Fabian Moreau pick on the boundary here. We are all taking the Denver Broncos tonight in a sneaky good game on a Sunday night in Denver.
I'm not feeling great about my pick on that anymore. I'm going with Marcus on the gut feel.
How much you willing to give? Show each other. Play for your brother. I come and I go. Tell me all the ways you need me. Pick it to Pickens. That's as sweet as my Aunt Nellie's blueberry pie, baby. Catch me or I go Houdini. Miles Garrett got him. Woo! And he's sacked by T.J. Watt. Angry man running all day. Tell me all the ways you need me. I'm not his love. Catch me or I go Houdini.
All right, game of the day right there. A couple of 6-3 teams. The Steelers, the Browns, a rematch from Week 2 when Deshaun Watson was quarterback. Now Dorian Thompson-Robinson is quarterback. You mentioned Brian Sipe.
There it is.
There it is, number 17. As the Browns wear the white face masks today. Kicking it old school with the white face mask. 1980 NFL MVP, Brian Sipe. Steve White.
Absolutely. And look, DTR, I think today the one thing he does not lack is confidence. And so DTR, Deshaun Watson, when he scrambled. He was always looking to pass. DTR is going to take off and run. He is going to put some stress on that Steelers defense. And, Coach, that's going to open up some interior run games because they're going to be worried about him bouncing it outside on the perimeter.
Yeah, but this Steelers defense, I think when they watch that Baltimore Ravens debut of DTR, they look at that tape and say, let's go. Come on, DTR. We want you out there because this is a team that leads the league, top of the league in takeaways. And they've got two rushers in Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt that want to get after the quarterback. And as much as the Browns want to run the ball because they're going to need to run the ball and run it well in this ball game, Cam Hayward is back. And he's really rounding into form. So I really believe that the Steelers defense will be up to par and finding a way to take the football away and score on defense and stop the run. They'll get it done.
Yeah, I think the team here that scores defensively is the team that wins the game. Cam Hayward's back, but Pat Fryermuth is also back.
Pat Fryermuth is back. We'll see if the Muth is Luth this week. But, you talk about the team that scores on defense. That might have to be part of the Steelers' offense. I heard you mention earlier in the show, and it's definitely something on our research notes. 57 straight games with fewer than 400.
I got it right from the research.
400 yards of total offense. They cannot move the ball against most defenses. Can they move the ball against one of the best defenses in the league? I'm skeptical about that, so it could be that their defense has to set them up with short fields if they want to score points.
It's all about the good feels here today for the Browns. Yes, no Deshaun Watson. Yes, it is DTR. But not only is Nick Chubb back in the building and on the sideline today, first time anyone has seen him since the Week 2 injury, the legendary voice of the Browns, Jim Donovan, battling leukemia, is back today in the booth, on the call. All kinds of good feels throughout the building. Let's make a Sunday statement. White, you go first.
Chase Young in his second game with the 49ers is going to get 2 sacks today against Tampa Bay because the Niners are going to take a big lead. Baker Mayfield's going to have to throw it. Number 92 right there is going to start rounding into form.
Did you see Nick Bosa put his head on Chase Young's shoulder on the bench?
He's like, thank
it's
God
good
you're
to be
here.
back.
I'm so glad.
It's good to be back. Buckeye TV is back. Coach, what do you got?
Kyler Murray, he's back. Expecting him today to be able to score 2 touchdowns in the air and then find a way to run the football in the end zone as well, just like he did last week against the Falcons. He is back, and he's bringing energy to that Arizona Cardinals football team.
Sneaker good game, Andrew.
All right, there you go, the sneaky good one. Marcus Grant, Sunday statement.
Well, I'm going to say that, you saw my gut pick there of the Titans beating the Jaguars. Combine that with the Texans getting a win over the Cardinals, they're going to pull into a first-place tie and set up what should be a massive AFC South showdown.
Look at that.
In Week 12. It's all coming together right now.
Love it. Okay, I like it. I like the Texans maybe to win that division. My Sunday statement. I cannot believe that the team that gave up 70 in September is now the team that's turning everyone over, and they're going to win 4 in a row. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos defense tonight on Sunday Night Football, slowing down Josh Dobbs and the Vikings, bringing the Pastronaut back down to earth. It's a shame Bradley Chubb is no longer there, because then we could have the astronaut sacking the Pastronaut. And I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos winning their 4th consecutive game, everybody.
Wow.
That's my Sunday statement. For Marcus Grant, for Cynthia Freeland, for Leslie Frazier, for Steve White, my name is Andrew Siciliano. We're back next week, friends. NFL Game Day preview on the NFL channel. Enjoy Week 11. Game Center is next. We'll see you soon.
Hey everybody, welcome to NFL Game Center presented by FanDuel. I'm Patrick Claybon. We got an incredible slate of games today, and Game Center's got you covered with highlights and social reactions for all of them. Get ready for a fun day of football. Enjoy the show.
I don't do this for the paycheck. Step out.